Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Our whole lives are wrapped in a neat bow of red, white, and blue, sprinkled with the emotional overtones of loyalty and bravery, tucked underneath the wing of a noble eagle who watches over and protects us, and settled down nicely into a routine orthodoxy that is nearly ubiquitous. We are meant to be forever fettered to this fealty. If we rustle a bit, if we peek out from under the wing to see that the white-headed eagle scavenging the blue and red bloody death of its opponents, which it has ruthlessly slaughtered, if we find out that the brave are actually the cruel, and we turn to our nestmates to point out the truth, we just might find ourselves under a bomb dropped by a helicopter on our heads, or in a sensory deprivation mask, hogtied and tortured in Guantanamo Bay. Could happen to you. The government slaughter of innocents is nearly endless in our history, and we are here on Rogueways to assist the exodus from the eagle's nest. But first, let me tell you that Rogueways is streaming on YouTube, available on every podcast app, and you can listen to it on the website at rogueways.org, where you can also find my published books and other writings. I have finally offered tarot readings and guidance for those who are seeking, and there is nothing too small or too large, so please come and work with me if you feel called to do so. Finally, you can check out the Eyes Open network, of which Rogueways is a part, while you're there. You can find us on Facebook and MeWe too, and we love to interact with minds that are discerning and hearts that are open, so come and connect with us. That's our superpower. Now let me introduce you to our panel tonight as we muck through the blood of the innocent. First, we have Steve Poikonen. Steve is one of my heroes and a fucking badass beyond compare as he flies through life like a machine beast, getting it done and doing it well. He works tirelessly to help those around him, whether it is through building their homes, making them laugh, or exposing them to political truth on his podcast, Slow News Day, which is also part of the Eyes Open network. Steve, how's the battle today?
I am fucking beat, Lindsay. I am tired. I was part of a cleanup crew this morning of about a dozen guys, and we were on a 300-acre ranch. So we only got a little bit done, but I think all in all, it was like 14 trees got downed and bucked up and everything got cleaned up. And then we stained like 40 picnic tables.
I am not surprised at all because I have hung out with you at a party where I didn't actually hang out with you because you were building a fire pit. So I know you never stop. Maybe you'll get some rest one of these days.
Maybe.
And one of my favorite people on the planet, Lee Chapman, is here tonight. Lee is the OG of Black Pillars, protecting the sleeping while exposing the architects and all their evil, never straying from the path and keeping a golden heart, even amidst the blackened filth that surrounds us. Lee will fight for you, even if you don't want him to, and you'll thank him for it in the end. Lee, how are those pills going down?
Oh, they're going down good these days. Glad to be on. Glad to be on.
Good to have you back. All right, for the pointless question of the episode, I figured since we're going into some dark territory that you guys could tell me what the cutest and most precious thing you can think of is. You guys are both like, nothing. I find nothing cute.
Oh, well, I'll answer that. My grandbabies would have to be my answer.
Aw, so sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I do have a really adorable family. But I have also seen like brand new kittens in the last week. So that's probably the most adorable thing that I've seen recently.
That's fresh in your mind. Yeah, now you guys are making me feel bad because really my nephews are the cutest things on the planet. And they're both like just one and just under one. So that I should be saying that, but I also have seen something adorably cute recently, and everybody should bother Johnny Bravado until he'll show you the picture of Sir Wallace. Sir Wallace is a baby corgi, and he is adorable. He can save the world with his cuteness. I really believe that that's true. If let's start the horror. This is in no particular order. We're just going like fully random here, but I guess the move bombings were the first thing that came to mind when I was thinking of this topic. And part of that is because it's like there's a lot of other slaughters that seemed, I guess, like historically, we just kind of have like known about them. But the move bombings I never heard about growing up, and they're pretty astounding, especially if you are one of the people who still is asleep and thinks that the government is there to protect you.
Well, and they're recent too.
Pretty recent. Yeah. What is it, like 70?
No, it was 85.
85. So I was alive. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It was only regional news, too. It barely made national news.
Barely made national news. And literally the government dropped bombs from helicopters.
It was the Philadelphia Police Department that ended up being the helicopter that dropped the bomb.
Right.
But this is something that went through many number of government agencies during the entire siege of that block. Like, it wasn't just the Philly PD that had total control of the situation, or lack of control, as it turned out, because they ended up burning a fucking city block.
And they took the fall. They took the fall. The other agencies just let them take the fall. Yeah, that's what happened.
Well, and it was really, I mean, it was the police commissioner, whose name's Greg Saber, who was the actual fall guy for all of it. He's the one that ultimately bore whatever responsibility was laid at him, which really wasn't that much.
Yeah, as usual. They really skirted a lot of responsibilities.
I guess also what shocked me is there's children involved, right? Like, how many? 5? 11? No. 5 children. 5 children and 65 houses.
No, it was an entire freaking city block that before the bomb, like in the hour and a half before the bomb, they fired off over 10,000 rounds in like an hour and a half.
10,000
at one complex, at one house.
I was just at a shooting range today for an hour, and I fired maybe 70 rounds. I'm slow. Sorry. 10,000 rounds is a lot.
10,000 rounds. Yeah. And this is, we should probably go over what MOVE was.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, what even was MOVE? That the government would bring out this much force against them. Like, what happened?
But MOVE was a Black liberation organization that sort of grew out of an ideological conflict with the Black Panthers. The MOVE was literally an action suggestion.
Yeah, it wasn't, because it looks like it should be an acronym, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it was a suggestion. They were Pan-Africanists, which the theory is as Africans in general, we have much more in common together, and we don't belong here, so we should go back to Africa. And that's what
it was a directive.
Yeah. But they had they had wound up in this one particular house on this block after like getting kicked out of different places.
Kicked out legally, or kicked out just by people being
I mean, evicted, or they were radical activists, and they would have loudspeakers up outside of the house, and they would rant on them all day and all night.
They were quote unquote, pretty aggressive in their attitude.
They were not subtle motherfuckers in the least bit about any of
Jim Jonas kind of too, like the way they used to do it.
But that, I mean, isn't that similar to Black Panthers? We're also like, let's carry our fucking guns open on the street. Let's patrol ourselves.
Different. The Black Panthers carried guns on the street, not in a menacing way, but in the same way that everybody fucking gets a happy heart on for when they see a picture of somebody with a fucking Colt strapped to their head in line at Chipotle. Like that's the exact same thing. It's the exact same Second Amendment ordeal.
But these people actually went out like threatening.
The Black Panthers were they wanted community representation, and they wanted that representation to carry over into the electoral sphere, whereas MOVE had wanted nothing to do with American politics whatsoever, wanted nothing to do with America if they could help it whatsoever.
Right. They were much more separate.
The ideological rift was approached.
No. I was agreeing with you 100%.
So they sound like, so they were into communal living, but they're not quite communists. They're more like, I don't know. But also it says they're that they were like against zoos and for freeing animals too. Is I kind of like them.
So they had like a literal barnyard in their yard with no fence. So their chickens are getting in everybody's shit.
Yeah.
Their cats and dogs and whatever animal that you can have, you could bring to the house is at the house. But also, so are rats, because there's raw meat out to feed them. There's raw hamburger meat out. There's so there's rats getting in the neighbors' houses. There's their animals getting into their shit, and it's to a point.
That's why they kept getting evicted.
Yeah, and it's to a point to where now the neighbors want the police to do something about it. They give them an order to split, and instead of splitting, they knock out all the windows and they board up the house and they reinforce the doors.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So they're like
Yeah.
a combination of Christianity, like Black Panthers, and fucking what are the Greenpeace or something?
They were militant too in all their everything. Like, it was not like Steve was saying earlier. It was serious in everything they did.
So I guess it's not surprising then that it came to some sort of a conflict.
Well, they had a couple. The reason that they had moved to this house in the first place is because in the late 70s there was a shootout, and 9 MOVE members, I think 1 or 2 cops died. 9 MOVE members went to prison, and this faction of it was the militant faction that survived out of that incident in the late 70s, and that's what had them not only on a radar, but yeah, I mean, the half of them had weapons charges. Everybody was armed. They'd had taken shots at the police before. The police had taken shots at them before. This is Philly in the 80s. It's corrupt as fuck anyway. You can basically, if you're a cop, you can shoot somebody with impunity. They don't really look into that shit too much yet, but dropping an incendiary bomb kind of got the whole department looked at after that.
Yeah. Because that's
too hot, literally.
Seriously. I mean, there's like part of me that can't, I don't even want to say it out loud. I can't criticize the police or the government too much if people are like getting shot and killed and there's like public health and there's no way to stop it. I don't know why you can't stop it without a bomb.
The problem is they went 0 to 6,000 in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went full on Fallujah. I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't escalation. It was full on 0 blitzkrieg, literally in downtown Philadelphia.
That is the problem. There's like, I can see why people would need to be stopped from behaving in this way, but I also, dropping bombs from helicopters seems a bit much.
And no, there's nobody's really got the exact story out how that fire spread.
Right.
Or how the explosion went off. The police blame MOVE for storing fuel on the roof. Surviving members of MOVE say that the explosion came from the other side of the wall, from where the police were firing from one direction into the house. They're all down in the basement. They're holed up in the basement of this house when the bomb drops, and then there's an explosion and a fire. So now they've got to get, I think there were a total of 13 or 15 people in the house in the basement at the time. And they got to, including kids, and they got to get all of them out.
The other thing that doesn't make any sense about the fire is they rained, like 1 million gallons of water on them in 2 or 3 hours before. Yeah. And, that's another thing. How does the fire spread when literally 1 million gallons of water? Because they literally tried to flood them out. Oh. They didn't know they had reinforced the inside with extra walls and reinforcing. And so, like Steve said, either the sister or the wife, I can't remember, had talked to them on the front porch. And then, they realized that, they weren't going to, negotiate this one out. So all the MOVE members went downstairs, and then they started to flood the place. And that went on for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's hard to burn something that's saturated.
They tried to flood them out before they tried to burn them out. I fucking forgot about that.
Yeah,
which makes it less likely that the whole place would burn down for, what did it say, 85 houses?
Right. So see, if it was just a bomb on their house, how did it literally spread that fast with that much? But I mean, obviously, oil and water don't mix. So if it's a fuel air bomb, I'm not a weapons expert. I don't. I'm just saying it's odd with that much water dropped on them, and then they drop an incendiary device on top of the water. So I don't know.
Maybe it wasn't just water.
Right. Could be.
What's weird?
I have a quote here though from the commissioner, the police commissioner, the guy that eventually took the hit.
Yeah.
This is the question to him was, did you tell the fire commissioner to let the bunker burn? And he said, I didn't order anything. I requested that we let the roof burn to get the bunker. I wanted to get the bunker. I wanted to somehow have tactical superiority. And that was the whole, that was the excuse for all of it. That's eventually what got him to bear the brunt of the blame for it. Was his reasoning for the entire ordeal. I wanted to have supreme tactical superiority over these guys.
So 10,000 rounds and a fuel air bomb wasn't enough superiority. So just let it burn for a while.
Well, because we know that they're not just trying to solve whatever immediate problem. They're trying to deter any future activities of anyone anywhere.
We'll be saying that about 8 million times tonight.
Right.
It was definitely an example being made.
So this is what's interesting too that I just realized. Maybe you guys already knew this, but Mumia Abu Jamal, which I used to be very incensed at his. I still am. I think he should not be imprisoned, but I didn't know that he was associated with MOVE.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
that they still have spokespeople, so they're still alive.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, should we move on to Ruby Ridge?
Excellent.
All right. What do you guys want to say about Ruby Ridge?
Go ahead and start, Steve.
Oh, I thought this was your wheelhouse.
We're all like, what?
Oh, okay. I just here we actually get our government agency that actually is going to take the fall here. Like Steve said earlier, you have all these different agencies. This one's like the recent one. I can't remember the guy's name with it. ATF.
The Bundy.
Yeah, the Bundy Ranch. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. So you have the ATF coming in, but then you also have land grab, which is almost always an issue. And in this case, that's the main, up front, reasoning, for this shooting and massacre, whatever word we want to put on it.
So it says something about an encounter with federal marshals before the actual shooting happened.
Oh yeah, they had been trying to where Steve, where was he at originally? Do you remember? Because he had to move because they tried to steal his land the first time, and he went and bought the land that they eventually shot his family on.
It was in Montana, right?
Yeah, I think that's where it was. Yeah, okay.
I want to say it was like that kind of like Bozeman-ish area, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure it was Montana.
And he had taught his family. He was pretty hardcore. He trained his sons, his wife. If they come on our property, we're gonna fight to the death, so to speak. And so the kids, the boys, the mom, they weren't playing. It was one of those issues. But once again, Ruby Ridge came down to, we're the government, we're going to take your stuff if we so please to do so. And, he ends up living, and he has to deal with his family getting shot over Texas, dude, over Texas.
Wow.
And again, it's one of those things where there's a pretext, right? There's always a pretext, and this bears out in Waco too, where if they think
this is 1992 and Waco's 93.
Waco was 94. 94 or 95. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just going
Right
off.
around the same time.
Yeah, same.
I don't think Janet Reno became Attorney General until at least 94. At any rate,
Sorry.
the Weaver family was super religious. The Weaver family bought a lot of fucking guns. The Weaver family weren't white supremacists, but sold a lot of guns to and hung out with a lot of white supremacists. And this all gave ATF a pretext. They could monitor them for gun sales. They could monitor them for gang or domestic terrorist activity based on what they were doing with Aryan Nation. They could keep an eye on them because they were I'm going to go with wingnut religious, but I am not a religious person. But they weren't like just evangelical about it. Like they had an apocalyptic prophecy that they were specifically beholden to, and I can't remember what the exact one was, but it raised another red flag when the feds needed to come in. They had all of these and to be fair, they were fundamentally religious. They were stockpiling weapons, and they did hang out with the Aryan Nation. So that doesn't warrant a slaughter.
No, but
I want to make that perfectly clear. That doesn't mean you should be fucking massacred by your government.
No, but it is so like that's part of because the MOVE people were also really religious. So now we have two for two on the religious front. I know that they look at that and see danger because people who have strong convictions are often then willing to like fight and die for their strong convictions.
Oh yeah, if you're certain of where you're going in the hereafter,
what do you have to lose?
You know, you've got a reason to get there.
Yeah, and it usually deals with the government.
And when I see 6 federal marshals were involved, I personally, my experiences with federal marshals is they're the most corrupt of the whole lot.
Well, remember, they're the ones that always serve. They have carte blanche anywhere in the U.S. So, So that's why, even though another agency may have jurisdiction, the marshals always come in to serve the warrants to do whatever. They're like they're the muscle, so to speak.
If there's multiple agencies involved, or just.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always multiple. You might not know it, but there's always multiple agencies. Like Steve was saying, they were gun stockpilers. So the ATF was. But like I said, they were tax evasion is what they were trying to get them on. A gun charge, a public gun charge, also that he says is not true, but at the same time, I don't know. Because you can find many good interviews where Randy Weaver's talking himself. Tells you the story himself.
Yeah, and his version is, so there's his version, there's the Fed version, and then somewhere in between there's a reality. It's got
to be the truth. Yeah, I agree.
Because I don't get how you go 12 days. That's what it says. There's a siege for 12 days, and there's several hundred federal agents surrounding the house, and not finish things off without killing everyone.
Well, they did that. They did that at the wildlife preserve up in Oregon with I guess one person got killed over that.
The Bundy thing? Isn't that also the Bundy thing?
Yeah, but there were more that could have been. They just got lucky.
But I mean that went on for what? A couple of months?
Months.
Yeah, because they were asking for scented candles and shit by the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was stinky.
One white handkerchief. All right. So then, shall we do Wounded Knee? Or we should probably do Waco because it's right after. Wait, we didn't do Waco. Yeah, we need to do Waco next. It's right in the same time period. It's very similar. Yeah. Plus, I think it's the one that most people have probably heard of. Right?
Correct. Absolutely. Man, like I said, I dumped my brain out about this, so I have my notes, but my notes are for the MOVE shit and the union shit.
Right. Okay. Waco, once again, like Steve said, Waco involves religious, wing nuts, as he put it, but most definitely true. They had their own commune again. No, you're right. That's what I kind of, I kind of agree with you there, Steve.
Anytime you go into child brides are cool, you've moved into
Yeah.
winglet territory.
100% agree with you. But Waco is one where you can actually, those of us black pillars that think nothing's done accidentally.
Yeah.
Waco has got it's just an absolute plethora of conspiracies all on top of each other all at once.
Right, because it's not just that, there was this same sort of mix of things going on where there's like these religious wingnuts and they're stockpiling shit and they're kind of culty and they're like possibly pretty anti-government, but also once the kind of heat comes in, there's like all sorts of allegations of exotic weaponry, right? That the state was using against them.
That we were using on them, right? You
Yeah.
have the hand of God technology. You have music where they pulse the frequencies hidden behind the music to mind control. Yeah.
Before the siege, during the siege?
Ambulant torture.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I had a guy on my show who was talking about that in regard to what they've done to Julian Assange in the embassy.
Yeah, like that shit, I can't imagine. Just you can't be free of it. Like you can't turn your ears off.
And what happened to the American embassy in Cuba? Whoever did it did the same thing, where they were all had headaches or puking.
Yeah,
and
but that was when they weren't actually hearing it. It was like sub.
Yeah, they just got sick. Right, that was not what you heard at Waco. If you, it's hard to find, but because I've seen the original feed that's uncut, unedited, and everything. One of the guys my dad knew when I was growing up that actually got me into this when I was about 16 years old. I think it was American for Justice was maybe the name of the tape, but they had the original uncut Waco feed, and you can hear the loud music in the background.
Oh God!
Which if you watch the YouTube version, you cannot hear it. But
this is something that the U.S. Army did,
right,
when they surrounded Noriega in Panama.
Yeah,
they were blaring music there, and it was like shit. Like I fought the law and the law won, and Mama never told me there'd be days like this and shit like that. And and he's this fucking CIA agent,
right? Yeah. Well, we train them up, set them out, and then fuck them in the end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
and we're doing it again. We're in Nicaragua again. John Kiriakou was just on my show. We're in Honduras again. We're fucking failing in Venezuela, but nobody knows that we're back in fucking Nicaragua and Honduras right now. We're doing the same fucking dirty ass shit.
Yeah, and the Republican Guard in Iraq is also another story, because those guys were trained by the SAS, the SEALs, and they literally got up and walked with their hands up. One guy, it was like one American for 400 Republican Guard, which like we're not chumps now. No matter what they tell you on, these guys were highly trained, and the same ambient torture, the same hand of God, touch of God technology was used on those guys, and they just quit.
Is the hand of God one where you actually hear it in your head?
Right.
Yeah. That's creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
But when people talk about being targeted individuals and whatever, and I'm sure there are some people who are schizophrenic, I'm sure there are some people who are mentally ill or whatever, I'm sure there are people who are being tortured and it's being tested on and are being told to go shoot places up or whatever.
Yeah, especially like military bases.
Hear them, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that guy, what was that? Not that long ago, that guy that went and shot up the Navy Yard or whatever.
Right. Yeah. That's yeah. But if you look at all of those, we're digressing, but I don't care. But
no, I like digressing.
Yeah. If you look at all these mass shootings, very few of the people actually just sit there and nut up after it's over. If their goal was to be famous, okay, if what they're telling us to live forever, why after the fact are they recanting? Because they're in jail. They just wrote a manifesto. Some of these guys, 500-600 pages. They go and do all these mass killings, and then all of a sudden, they just, I changed my mind. I don't want to be in jail forever.
Yeah,
I find it kind of odd.
It is odd.
Food's bad. I've been to jail. Food sucks.
Yeah. I heard that.
It ain't fun.
Back to Waco, you watch the videos. You can see the tank setting the fire. Before all the shooting happens, you can see the 50 cal bullet holes through the walls. Long before Koresh started shooting back at, or whatever their official story is. So I mean, you can see that it's watch the videos of the National Guard guys laughing and having a grand old time after they just massacred a bunch of women and children, burned them to the ground. and they're having a field day out there, getting interviewed for the news.
Yeah.
And I think like
you just pull up like it's a fucking Texas barbecue.
Right, exactly.
It's disgusting. I think part of it too, like they obviously pick these groups because there's plenty of groups that they could target if they wanted to, but I think they purposely pick the ones that are the easiest to get us to feel not connected to or critical of, especially like if they have things like child brides going on. I mean, there's a certain, obviously that seems pretty pedophilic and I'm against it, but there's like a certain level of like, you should be able to go live in a fucking compound with your family and your friends and have a weird religion if that's what you want to do, right? Like,
right,
that's your freedom. So, we should be like outraged at it, but at the same time, we're like, oh, but they're creepy people and they're scary. And so whatever.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I definitely draw a line at fucking burning them alive and gunning them down in a hail of bullets,
Right.
I think if your religion includes kid fucking, you're doing religion wrong.
You're doing some shit wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people have the tendency to be able to dismiss it in their minds easier because of that kind of shit.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it's used as a fucking a nullifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I agree 100%.
It's okay that these people died because they were bad, No, it's not okay that your fucking government fucking sanctioned murder happened and you just sat there like, oh, well, I'm not them, so it won't happen to me.
Right. That's exactly it. Or like they're outsiders, so
yeah, they should have surrendered. That's what people say. They got what they got coming to them.
Right. So, all right, let's do Wounded Knee. This is the first time where it's not specifically a religious cult or group.
Yeah, I'll add very little Wounded Knee. I'm not very proficient at Wounded Knee.
Dude, Wounded Knee is our oldest one. I think we should probably start it there.
Well, okay, so before we do that, the whole reason that the government felt confident that it could march against its own citizens or engage in actions against its own citizens was because of the Whiskey Rebellion. And that was when George Washington finally gave Alexander Hamilton his own army.
Right.
And he marched from New York to like Western Pennsylvania. Didn't kill anybody. Grabbed a couple of guys, took him back to try him for treason and then let him go. But it was to enforce attacks on whiskey. And it was the first armed movement by the government against its own people.
Wow.
And it kind of set a precedent that they could do that because there really wasn't much pushback.
Was there not much pushback, or do we just
there was among the Federalists, but that's about it.
Okay.
And at that point, it was made clear that Washington was at least going to grant favors to Hamilton and whatever his faction was. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Wouldn't the anti-federalists be more likely to be upset about this? Because it's a federal move against people. Against the people.
Maybe, yeah. It's been a long day.
Yeah, no.
Well, you also remember a lot of the names we use now that didn't. So they had the Federalists, the Constitutionalists, the Anti-Federalists. They were all really, pretty much the same.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not that much of a, actual sidestep. Well, it could have very well been a Federalist. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
Yeah. But go ahead.
Got you.
But yes, that Steve is correct. That is the U.S. Its own army policing citizens.
So that was actually
one reason why the U.S. was supposed to be formed, was so that wouldn't happen.
Right. And not long after, and then 100 years later, we have Wounded Knee, which is, I mean, technically it's citizens, right? But it's Native Americans. They're actually you could consider them foreign citizens as well. But realistically, they're the original citizens.
Yeah, First Nations people did not have U.S. citizen rights in 1888.
And we don't even know how many people died because, no one really cared.
Yeah,
Right.
they didn't keep track of that. They weren't keeping track of native casualties. That's for sure.
So we've got the best estimate is somewhere near 300, but I'm gonna guess that it's more than that because I'm gonna guess that you'd be like, I don't know, fucking who cares? Maybe
They
300.
probably didn't count women and children. That was probably 300 men.
Jesus,
They were kind of sexist back then.
just a little sexist, a little racist. They're like, let's just kill a bunch of Native Americans for no reason. So what was it for?
Well, there was like a background skirmish to them that they wanted them. No, they were trying to put them on a reservation and have them disarmed.
Well, yeah, the story is that there was rogue like attack parties, but what I've always heard is, it's obviously bullshit, and that it was just a way to, give them the ability to do what they did. So that one, the First Nation people say, no, that's garbage, and then the American government's like, no, you had sanctioned parties going around, killing settlers.
Yeah, and what it was they just needed a pretext to have a forced march onto a reservation and force them to disarm or slaughter them if they didn't. And then the story goes that the Sioux were in the process of disarming, and one of them shot because he didn't understand what was going on, and then the cavalry just opened fire.
Just opened fire, yeah.
But who knows who shot, because we weren't there.
Right.
It could have just been like, hey, Johnny, go around to the back and shoot in the direction where they are, and then run like hell out of the way and hide behind that hill.
Just one more false flag in the long documented history of false flags.
Yeah, people act like false flags just started with the Gulf of Tonkin, and I like...
No, yeah. World War One, hello?
Probably everywhere, like probably fucking
warfare has existed since fucking you could write about it, and I'm sure before that,
Yeah, I agree with you.
Who really killed Archduke Ferdinand?
Did Archduke Ferdinand even die? Was that him in the fucking car? Why would you get back in a convertible ever again?
Right, after the first attempt failed. That's correct. No, I've always heard that he was not in the vehicle. I have heard that also, because they were all related anyway. All the Queen, the King, the Russian, czars, they were all cousins. So I've always thought, he probably wasn't even killed because that's their cousin.
All right, I don't even know what the strike killings are. Is that just like a collection of all of the killings?
There was a series a few years ago, and it might have been like PBS or NPR or something like that put it out, but it was called the Coal Wars.
Coal Wars, yeah, NPR.
And it went through a lot of these mine strikes, and it was really cool because it kind of gave you like the real history of who Mother Jones was and what the original intent of unions were, and that was to go to management and say, we can collectively bargain for better pay and better way of living for our workers, or we can drag you out of the office and curb stomp you to death in front of your family.
I don't know why that makes me happy, but it does.
So what's it gonna be? And now we're in a much different situation where union bosses exist to do management favors and fuck over their workers.
Yeah, for real. Like, if there's some things that I love the union for, and there's some things that I've learned that I hate the union for.
Well, you're dealing with money. Large amounts of money.
Well, and we've gotten away from that. Like, we're here to bargain like gentlemen for better conditions for ourselves and our families, or we're going to drag you the fuck out and curb stomp you to death in front of your friends and family.
And we've gotten to like this is a really small thing, but it seemed big to me, where the National Teachers, National Education Association, the big national level union that I have to be a member of, they just decided to back Hillary in the last election. And I was like, what was the decision-making process? And they're like, oh, there's like fucking 6 people in a room, and they're the people who were elected by whoever. And so they decided, and I'm like, we have the fucking internet. Ask us what we think. Like, probably Bernie would have won our vote, but
overwhelmingly, union members did not support Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
It was union bosses. And then you find out like the director of Planned Parenthood is the former governor of Texas's daughter, who was Hillary Clinton's fucking campaign co-chair back in, and shit like that. And everybody's got a job or a favor. And it's management that's, again, it's bosses and management telling the workers what to do instead of union representatives going to management and telling them what the workers want. Yeah. And that's why unions are fucking failures in 2019.
The big, massive ones, at least. Maybe there are small ones that are still good. I don't know. And like the
concept. Shout out to IBEW for being one of the good unions. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers does really, really good shit. Cool. For their guy. The Carpenters Union, not so much.
Yeah.
But the IBEW does good shit.
Teachers unions, no. I got kicked out of Facebook groups for saying that we should change the way that the union works so that we don't end up having support for Hillary Clinton. People were like, kill her! Burn the
witch! She hates women.
You're sexist.
She's a homophobic.
Yeah, she's racist too.
I watched somebody tell another woman that she voted for the wrong vagina. With the woman was like, but I supported a woman this last election. I voted for Jill Stein. I live in California. Hillary won anyway. I did support. You voted for the wrong vagina.
Yeah, you're voting for vaginas now. That's totally what we're doing. We're like, I want your skin color to be a certain way and your fucking genitals to be a certain way. And I don't really care about your policies or what you do. I just want you to look a certain way. I want your biology to be a certain way.
There's a real common theme to circle back to the Cold Wars around this, is that all these guys are living in company towns.
Yes.
If you're unfamiliar with what a company town is, it's literally everything in this town, including your house, the furnishings in it, the food in your table, the plate, the table is owned by your boss. And you have a company store that keeps track of what you make and what you spend, and more often than not, you're spending more than you make. So you always have to work extra time to pay off your debt to the company that you're going to work for.
And they didn't pay them in money. They paid them in company money.
Yeah.
They didn't have American bills. They would fire you often.
Yeah, you couldn't take your money and go into town.
Right. No, they paid you in company money, so you had to pay it. And they charged them for their own utensils, like their blasting caps they had to use to blast the coal out. They didn't provide it; they had to pay for it.
That's fucked up.
And the way, of course, the way coal miners got paid was by poundage of coal. So if they found one rock in 500 pounds of coal, they threw it in the bin now and told you it didn't count because of the one rock, and they couldn't adjust the price right. That's the stories that I found anyway when I was studying these guys.
So
go ahead.
It's like we're doing this in China right now, though. Like this is not a practice that has fallen away.
We're doing this to Uber drivers. We're doing this we're doing this to adjunct professors.
That's true.
I mean, all we've done is change the metrics and the optics to match the technology and the time.
Yes, the technology's changed. That's it. You're right. The principle is still the same. It is. The way they go about doing it is slicker.
Yeah.
And they now provide sports and what's that stupid show everybody just finished watching? Those shows, Game of Thrones. There you go. That's like the modern day gladiator pits.
You just fucking triggered our whole audience, Lee.
Dragons and titties are your company store.
That's the truth.
Everybody should go listen to Tennessee Ernie Ford's 16 Tons right after the show.
So what would happen is when these guys would finally fucking have enough and go on strike, they would get evicted from their homes because they're in company homes. So they would go to tent cities right outside. And I mean, these are where their families are, because it's not like their families are staying in the company house. It's not like the bosses are going to let the wives and kids stay there. So they're out there too. In all weather, and we're talking about you know, the
coal
hills of
country.
Virginia or
Yes,
like
West
Ludlow,
Virginia.
Colorado, or
Right.
you know, have you ever been into high country in Colorado? There's you know, they're all named after like coal and mining operations, Leadville, probably all that shit. And it would get to a point where either, you know, through enough pressure, the bosses would cave and give them a little tiny increase, or like in Ludlow and like in Latimer, they would hire militiamen, or they would go and get like straight up mercs or the Pinkerton Detective Agency,
right?
Or any one of the other agencies that were around. The Pinkertons were primarily railroad, but there were other
Right.
Rockefeller-owned, basically mercs, but legal, badged in official mercs that would go and fucking beat and kill miners until they fucking rolled over or pushed back.
And then they would bring in the reserves too, and then they would end up getting paid a second paycheck from the Rockefellers to be the thugs. And
Yeah,
they were the military, right? They were supposed to be, you know, keeping it from happening, but then, you know, a bunch of them got court-martialed after, you know, like Ludlow and Latimer both, because they found out they were getting paid by the mining companies too, also at the same time. So
so corrupt.
Yep.
So this says 1,200 striking coal miners at Ludlow massacre, but how many actually? They're mowed down by fucking machine guns.
It was like around 50. And I know that, like, I think they pulled like 12 actual bodies out, but there were over 50 people that ended up dying from gunshot wounds.
And that's in the actual event, but it says here that up to 199 people died over the like length of the day leading up. And
remember, they were pissed too, and they were, after that happened, they were going around, you know, taking their frustrations out on the you know, the towns where the rich people were at. So a lot of them also got killed when they were doing that too, because then the sheriff would just, you know, they'd have a literal shoot off. You know, it just didn't make the papers or nothing. But now, of course, we know about it. But a lot of the body count was from retaliation, also.
Man, so like we have 10.
You've got. I mean, you coming out of the Reconstruction. There's a few other things that are happening in this time too. That's also when Tulsa got burned to the ground.
That's true. Yep.
And this is all like. A lot of this has to do with poor people wanting a little bit more agency, or people of color wanting a little bit more agency.
And it's really, really minor amounts of agency. It's not even like give us chicken dinners. It's like survive
through history, preventing workers in general from having agency at all. And you see like the Rockefellers and Carnegie and fucking JP Morgan and all that. Just, I mean, throughout industry, no matter what it is, Tulsa was the Black Wall Street. JP Morgan did not want a Black Wall Street.
That's right. And so he did away with it real quick. Like,
wait, can we just stop before we get into Black Wall Street and talk about the armored car known as the Death Special with mounted M1895 machine gun?
Yeah, that was at Lattimore or Ludlow.
It says it was at Ludlow, but
I was at Ludlow.
Ludlow, yeah. That was those are Gatling guns, like back in the day, Gatling guns they used.
And the guys in it look like fucking mobsters, like.
Well, because like I said, that's literally they were mercenaries, like Steve said.
I just can't, like, we think we have it pretty bad sometimes, but I can't imagine working in a coal mine until I'm fucking, you know, and I'm in debt to the company store and I can't work hard enough to even get out of it. And that's hard.
There's programmers that have like 50-hour shifts.
What do you mean?
Like computer programmers that have 50-hour shifts. You don't get a medical degree unless you can stay awake for fucking 4 days straight.
Jesus.
You know? Like, it's not that we don't torture our fucking work. Again, we just, you know, we change the metrics a little bit. We fucking adapt what kind of slavery we can get out of people based on what technology we have.
And it's kind of like this cycle, right? Like people are at their lowest, and so they're like grasping at shit, and they're like, "Oh, we'll give you this, we'll give you this," and you're like, "Oh, I'm so grateful I have this." And then after a while, like,
I'm a task rabbit.
Yeah,
it's the same people at the top too. The controllers are the same. They
Right.
haven't changed either. All
Right.
of us fodder at the bottom change. They do not, no matter what they try to tell us.
Well, that's like we talk about the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, but the first time I heard of the Rockefellers was in regards to murdering people at strikes. So I think they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, well, that's when people used to fucking sing songs about it.
Yep.
Now our artists are like, "Yo, I am the Rockefellers." And
Yeah.
the fucking Illuminati, and that's
They
what
can't
I am.
wait. Yeah, that's right.
Really good point. It's like music used to be like about lifting people up and reminding people of what was important and like unifying people, and now it's about like sex, money.
DMC. I can't remember his real name, Daryl something, but from Run DMC had this great fucking video where he just rants into the camera about like today's hip hop is fucking disco, and here's why.
Yeah, I saw that actually too. Yes.
Oh my god, it's beautiful, dude.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
It's like 8 minutes long, and it's fucking fire, dude.
Yeah,
Now-
it's not that old either. It's not that old. Maybe 4 or 5 years old, maybe.
All right, should we talk about the Black Wall Street race riots? I don't know a thing about this. I hadn't heard about this at all.
Oh, well, it was just another thing. We're coming out of the Reconstruction. Tulsa, Oklahoma in particular, and Oklahoma really had like one of the highest union memberships in the nation at the time. It was like there was more focus on community than government kind of thing. Like they had open socialists in their fucking state house and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it was a center of black wealth and prosperity, like more so than what Atlanta was about to become. And what they referred to as the Black Wall Street, like because there was segregation, it allowed for an entire like center of black wealth to be concentrated wealth, you know, and straight up like sheriffs, neighboring townspeople, and a handful of fucking mercs were like, no, they have too much. We're gonna fucking take it. If we can't take it, we'll break it. If we can't break it, we'll burn it.
Yeah.
So
and their false flag was a shoe shiner who allegedly assaulted a 17-year-old white elevator operator.
White girl.
Yep, of course. These
Yeah.
blackies, these darkies are coming for our women.
Yup. Emmett Tilled him before Emmett Till.
I love that it says the American Red Cross declined to provide an estimate for how many people died. It's like, that's because they're dirty too.
Yeah, the Red Cross is just trash. But anyway, that's a different episode.
Every time I see those things that are like, donate to the Red Cross, I'm like, do you realize what you're asking me for?
I would love to do an episode about NGOs that are front organizations. That would be great.
Ooh.
Yeah, all of them.
Writing it down. Yeah, that's why I never did the what's it fucking called when you get to travel and do random good works or whatever, allegedly. Peace Corps. So I never did it because I heard it was you're just basically an agent gathering intel. I was like,
yeah,
fuck that.
Straight up, you're NATO. Yeah, with peaceful intentions supposedly.
Supposedly.
You're providing a pretext for the white helmets to be there.
That's right. Exactly. UNICEF.
But the white helmets are good. They have white helmets.
Why else would they have white helmets?
Yes.
Come on.
So this says that the attack against this Black Wall Street or the race riots of Tulsa was carried out by land and air, but it was 1921. They were flying planes against them. Like Jesus.
Crop dusters.
Yeah.
Wow, that's intense.
Molotov.
Dude, crop dust pilots were like the fucking most sought after Air Force pilots from the get.
That's right.
They're like, you motherfuckers are crazy.
Because they were crazy, yes. They flew 10 feet off the ground.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's exactly. Seems right. They were crazy.
And pulled up real quick over those natural fucking windbreaks, man.
Yeah.
Like,
and they knew where they were at. Yep.
Yeah.
So there had been many thousands of Black people in this kind of like conglomerate or whatever it was, or people who were helping each other or whatever. And by the end of this, 10,000 Black people were left homeless. Property damage amounted to more than 1.5 million at that time.
Yes.
Jesus.
Right out of the Depression.
Wow. That's a bad one. And then I never heard of it. Like, this is a shit. Like, I'm a fucking social studies teacher. I'm not super great with history, but like, I should have at least heard of this once.
Yeah, no, it's another scrubbed story. Like most of the Union, the violence is scrubbed. You never hear nothing like that.
That I heard about because I went to a really hippie college. But yeah, I would have thought I would have heard about this.
Well, who owns the companies that write the history books?
Rockefellers.
There you go. So why are they really going to put that in there? I don't
True.
think so.
True,
Right?
true.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no, that guy was so fucking dirty.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So what about the Memorial Day Massacre?
Oh, God damn it, man.
There's just too many.
No, so the Memorial Day Massacre was in Chicago.
Yep.
And it was, I want to say Union Steel.
Yeah, that's right. Little Steel.
And Union Steel was a Carnegie-owned plant. But again,
it's not the Rockefellers, it's the Carnegies.
But I mean, that's that's
the same people
in the same hot tub.
Yeah.
But they marched from a pub where they had their meetings at. Back room of the pub. I can't. Was it Frank's? Anyway,
Sam's place.
Sam's
place. That's it. Yeah.
And they marched. They were on their way to Union Steel. They were met by a police blockade, and the cops were like, "You need to disperse," and they're all, "Fuck off. We're gonna go talk to Will," And so the police opened fire, and I think 9 died from gunshot wounds, if not 12, like immediately. But it's one of the it's like one of the classic ironies of Memorial Day, because that was like 39. It was like right before World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And they're marching for a war that was still like in recent memory.
Yeah.
But they're still trying to get not even adequate wages. These are veterans that are working in these steel mills too, by the way,
Right.
Yeah. And they're kids. And they should be marching in a parade to honor their sacrifice ostensibly, but they're marching for fucking workers' rights, and now they're getting shot on by the police.
Yeah, because the police felt threatened.
Yeah. Somebody was reaching for their waistband.
Right, one out of hundreds. Someone moved. But it's sad too, because it says that it's 20 people total, I think it looks like, died like in the days after from their injuries.
Yeah, aftermath.
9 more people were permanently disabled. 28 more people had serious head injuries from police clubbing, which can just change the rest of your life.
That's the other thing. Like the cops didn't just shoot. Like they went in with
they softened them up.
Just fucking swinging, man, and they're swinging on anybody. Like there's women in this parade too.
Oh God. And this is the thing that I'm like, I'm sorry, like there are some good cops. I know it. I've met some. But also, like, how do you go into this job knowing you might have to go just fucking...
No, those guys aren't the good cops. There's no way. Those guys are the guys that are, the ones we hear about. They're looking for that kind of stuff.
Right.
An extra $20. Here it is. Go break some skulls, and they're happy to do it.
But like the majority of people who end up in that profession are going to be more likely like that than any other way. Because
that's right. Yep.
Unless you get dropped.
It attracts it. Yep. Power is effective.
That's disgusting.
Well, not only that, but you're taught to immediately other society, civilians. It's you versus them as a cop, not you're part of a community. You have this particular job in this community. This is how you work with your community. There are people in your community that have mental health problems. This is how you interact with them. That's not how it works. It's fucking, here's 6 hours of psych training. Here's 120 hours at the range. Here's a gun. Here's a badge. Get out there and be the law.
And you also have the difference in police and sheriffs too, which most people,
Yeah.
You know, sheriffs are constitutional, police technically are not. So you have that. You have that also. They don't even fall under the same laws as law enforcement. You know, there are different rules.
Yikes. So we've got the I don't know how to say this.
Matawan, yeah.
Matawan massacre. We're just like jumping forward and backwards in time because this one goes back to 1920.
That happened. Was that right before the Blair Mountain?
God, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was like literally right before, I believe.
It was that. It was one of the things where it was one of the reasons that I think Matawan was one of the first times that you see the name Hatfield pop up.
Right. Yes, I'm pretty sure you're correct on that.
I think the sheriff on the scene there was a Hatfield, and he was the one that organized the original posse to go after the miners.
Right, and that's another out. You know, that was when they were getting, super brazen, super they just didn't care. They just like he said.
Oh, well, they had a collective at that point.
Right. Yeah.
There were several different mining outfits that had marched like hundreds of miles over the course of months that were all they were trying to converge, I think, somewhere in North Carolina, and they didn't make it there.
No,
West Virginia.
That's where they're coming from.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, these are people that were done giving a fuck a while ago.
Yeah. So the Battle of Matawan happened first, and they got pissed, and then they got together with others and did the Battle of Blair Mountain.
Blair Mountain, right? Yes, it was a precursor. I thought so.
So 10,000 people.
Yeah.
The fuck, especially back then.
It's the largest, other than the Civil War, correct? Isn't that Blair Mountain the largest outside of the Civil War? It's the largest insurrection ever.
Yeah,
in the U.S. Yeah.
It's where redneck
comes from. Yeah,
originated.
Really?
Because the striking Union motherfuckers all wore red scarves so they could identify each other.
Oh, I thought redneck came from like you're working in the sun and so you're next.
No, it was the original red. They called it the Redneck War down there for a while.
Wow. That's kind of cool. Well, it's kind of cool too because rednecks still have the tendency. I'm totally fucking gonna just piss some people off right now. But rednecks still have the tendency to be sort of pro people and anti-government, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I did it. I categorized a group of people.
You did. You did.
I guess it depends on which rednecks, man, because there's the rednecks that really, the Clear Channel rednecks,
What's Clear Channel?
The radio station, the radio conglomerate, the people that are putting out like banjo and auto-tune.
Wasn't Clear Channel the ones who provided that for a while schools had access to this like fucking channel of programming for kids? Like
Channel 1 with Lisa
Channel 1. Yeah, wasn't that
dude? Clear Channel's Rothschild. I mean, they're
but they're like the largest radio corporation in the country. They own like 98% of all radio stations.
They're Rothschild owned for sure. Rockefeller. I mean, it's the same thing.
And they're rednecks?
No, that's what
he's just saying.
It's like a type of redneck that is 100% fucking God, country, the Bible's literal word of Toby Keith, and fucking.
Isn't it? It's so weird that you can get these Christians who are like super fundamentalist and like super anti-government. You can get the exact same level of fundamentalist Christian who are really pro-government. It's really weird.
It's there's a reason why the ones that are anti-government wind up getting fucking gunned down or burned alive, and the ones who are absolutely pro-government end up in fucking government positions.
That's right, worth lots of money.
Toe
the line, so to speak.
Moving up through the Rotary Club or whatever, Yep,
100%.
So who's this Hatfield guy? Back to the Blair Mountain.
Oh, well, it's the goes back to the fucking the Hatfields and the McCoys feud, right? Like do you, Lindsay?
No, I don't know anything.
What?
Oh my God.
Why? What is this, like a guy thing, or?
It's no, I know it's like one of the oldest blood feuds in American history.
If you talk about blood feuds, you bring up the Hatfield and McCoys. I mean, that's generic.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about. Like, is it mob stuff? I love this. I often.
Where am I?
You ever heard that where, like, they wouldn't marry, they wouldn't let each other marry across family, the Hatfields never married McCoy.
Like Romeo and Juliet shit?
Well, except for, like, West Virginia redneck, what he's talking about.
Okay.
But anyway.
I'll just trust your word.
Okay.
But no, I mean, they're just, at least in terms of 99.9% of everyone, except for possibly Lindsay, the Hatfields and the McCoys are a fairly common name that I didn't think I was gonna have to. Wow. No, go look them up. It's hilarious, dude. They have like an annual fucking barbecue now. They all get along and shit.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it was one of the, and this particular sheriff was a Hatfield. There were members of the McCoy family who were part of the Redneck Army. Like I thought I was tying everything kind of in there.
You were. She just missed it. She missed the boat, but you were doing it well. Good job.
Good job. I was trying to figure out, because martial law was declared in Battle of Blair Mountain, so I was going to see if that was like, how often has martial law been declared? Because not all the other ones we were talking about, martial law was not declared. As far as I could have missed it, and I can't find out. I wonder if anybody knows. Anybody in the chat, if you're savvy, tell us when how long martial law has been used in the United States, or when the first time was.
Yeah, not me. I'm not on top of my head.
I can't find it. Yeah, I'm sure it's out there, but it's not easy to find, at least not.
I would have to guess it would be way early, though.
Because that's kind of late. This is like 19.
I think, 1898. Or am I thinking of Ludlow? Ludlow, one of them was really like in the 1800s still.
Latimer was 1897.
That's it. Okay. So, and then Blair Mountain happened a lot later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That'd be interesting to find out. When was the first time martial law was declared? So martial law was declared on Battle for Blair Mountain. 10,000 people were involved, and how many people died?
I don't know the count. You'll have to look that up.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of motherfuckers. I know that. That was God, wasn't it like 3 straight days of gunfighting?
Then 3 days. Machine guns on roofs.
Yeah.
They love their machine guns. No air fighting in this one though.
It's West Virginia.
Right?
They'd be fighting the trees.
13,000 had actually gathered by the time the battle actually started.
It was like Gangs of New York style. That's all I know. So I don't know.
And this would be like the shit. Like if you made a movie of this, it would be fucking epic. People would want to see that, but we don't even talk about it.
Right? No, we're watching Elton John.
Yeah.
Fucking Captain America. Nobody wants. Nobody. Yeah, I don't know. Boots Riley's making another movie. I'm stoked for that.
Dude, he should make one about this. 985 miners were indicted for murder, conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to murder, and treason. Just for trying to get some workers' rights.
Treason.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
All right, and then I think this is our most recent one that's on the list, which makes me nervous to think that maybe another one's coming up soon. They got to like get it in, But we have Kent State next.
So
this is the one probably most people listening are familiar with, because a lot of these I bet a lot of people hadn't even heard of.
Well, you also switch. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
I was just real quick, man. The dude who I went to go to the work party with today, he's I told him kind of what the show was going to be about, and Kent State came up, and he was like, man, if you look in one of the pictures where the cops or the National Guard's first lobbing tear gas, you can see a big blonde ponytail, the back of it, and kind of a head that looks like mine, and it's my dad running away.
What?
Tear gas. And I was like, really?
Wow.
Fucking all right, Ben. That's fucking cool.
He should have been on the show. Is this the fake Ben? The Ben that's like
fake Ben? No. I put a picture of him in the group. He's real.
I know, but he's like not our Ben. So he's fake Ben.
Bizarro world Ben and Christie.
It's so weird.
Christie.
It's so weird. Okay. So Kent State, what people at the school are being like activists about the war.
Organized protests against the Vietnam War.
It wasn't even that big, was it? They're unarmed college students of not even very many of them.
What, 27? I can't remember.
That's nothing. It doesn't even say here.
And Nixon decided that it was time to put a stop to these fucking hippies once and for all. So he called in the National Guard.
The National Guard comes in for a handful of college students who are unarmed and
and almost half were women, if not more.
Jesus. I know people are going to watch this episode and be like, man, these people are sexist. But seriously, there's a difference between killing men and killing women and children.
I agree. But,
I feel much more expendable than I feel that my wife or my kids are expendable.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, all people are beautiful and whatever.
At any rate, it gets tense. And the National Guard, like point blank, opens up and fucking slaughters poor people.
That's crazy. And people will say like, oh, this is the first time that they killed. Like, no, it's not. Obviously, we just covered many, many other times that the U.S. government was involved in killing innocent civilians. But this was the most, I guess, obvious and the least. I mean, those people were not armed. They're not in some kooky cult. They're not like, I don't know. They're not even trying to fucking really do anything except stand there and say they don't like war.
And that's literally what they were doing. They were standing there.
They're seriously just standing there, like
holding flowers and shit.
They're hippies.
Like, and murder.
And just kill. Yeah, there's dead. So that's the story, at least, right? There are other theories that this never even happened. You guys heard those?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that? The reasons why people might think that?
Oh, same reason as always. Stories of stories is what you hear nowadays. I'm not a believer in the complete timelines, a lie, but that it falls into the same category of propaganda. So, but as far as I know, it's not a real big theory people use. I mean, it's just really fringe. You have to be one of those people that doesn't believe anything.
If Steve knows a guy that says his dad was there, then that's pretty legit for me.
Right.
I have every reason in the world to trust this dude. He's the godfather to one of my children. And I've met Larry. And I can totally vouch that Larry is at least the kind of guy that would have been at Kent State.
Yeah.
I know that he later in life wound up at Berkeley and a part of the Dr. Domino show, which is pretty fucking cool.
This is weird. So it says 120 people had gathered. So we're still like, okay, that's nothing. I don't know why you would call in National Guards for 120 people. But it also says the police chief told the mayor that according to a reliable informant, the ROTC building, the local army recruiting station, and post office had been targeted for destruction by these protesters. There were rumors of students with caches of arms, plots to poison the local water supply with LSD. Sorry, I don't know why this is hilarious. And of students building underground tunnels for the purpose of blowing up the town's main store. So that's their rationale for why it was okay that they murdered 4 college students who were peaceful.
Oh, right, because this was during Weather Underground and
right.
Shit like
yes,
that.
I was just getting ready to bring that up. Yeah.
So it's possible they actually did think that, or that actually was a plan by some people.
That's what yeah. Well, I mean, that was what Weather Underground was saying. I don't know. I'm not saying that Kent State was part of it. I'm just saying that was definitely going on at the time period. So there was a lot of, satanic panic stuff in the 80s. it was a lot of the insurrection at this time. Anti-war, but taking it to a violent level.
It's plausible.
and this is part of a progression that came out of McCarthyism and the Red Scare, and what they and part of even the concept of the drug war is a result of this too, where you've got Harry Anslinger saying we wanted to make people associate hippies with weed, black people with heroin, and we wanted to increase the amount of violence that people saw in association with these two groups. And then here you've got, groups like Weather Underground, which I'm not entirely sure wasn't a fucking
government.
Yeah, it wasn't CIA.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you.
Particularly where all those guys wound up later in life and what positions they're in their careers.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
There was a guy who used to do radio broadcast here who called himself Travis T. Hip, and he said that he was in the Navy in Korea, and then he went to Berkeley, and he was part of some quote unquote secret society called the Elves, Gnomes, and Dwarves Marching Band or some shit. But he was like, we got infiltrated. There were like 8 of us, and we were dorks, and we got infiltrated. And he was like, wherever 4 gather, if a 5th one shows and says he knows where you can get a bomb,
don't trust him.
I don't know if I've said it on air before, but if people don't realize, because people are always like, oh, you're not tapped and you're not whatever, and whatever's going, because you're not big enough, and it's it really doesn't matter how big you are or how small you are. They're going to try to infiltrate any group. There are definitely, if we didn't know this already, there are people in Eyes Open, for example, who are fucking working for whoever. There's agents infiltrated in every single group that exists.
Yeah. The smaller ones are better and easier because they're less under the radar. They're more under the radar, I should say, less public. So that's where this started. We talk about Oklahoma City bombing, McVeigh, they of course were on the radar, but regular folks knew nothing about the malicious stuff. Fast and the Furious with Obama, same difference.
Wait, what about Obama?
Fast and Furious.
Oh, right.
Arming the cartels.
No, Obama would never, you racist.
No, that's right. It happens.
All right. So what is the common denominator of all of these massacres? What determines whether they're going to use force to destroy people or not?
Money.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say people seeking what the government deems to be too much of their own agency.
I like that answer. I mean, people are kind of doing that all the time.
Well, there's pushback all the time, too.
That's true. So, how effective their pushback is. If it's not very effective, then they'll bring in literal guns and bombs.
If the cultural programming that 99% of people operate under isn't enough to shut you up, isn't enough to make you stop, then it's going to increase to outside of just cultural programming and societal pressure.
Because, I gotta say, I think it does. While I have just said that no matter how big your group is, it's going to be infiltrated, that doesn't mean no matter how big your group is, it's going to matter or affect you at all, because they'll mostly just sit there and fucking watch.
Right.
But as soon as you're effective, I think, is when it starts to get dicey.
Or your agenda is effective.
Right. Yeah, these naturopathic doctors and stuff that start showing up dead, I think just enough people are starting to pay attention to them and naturopathy and, that kind of stuff that they have to start trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, with that, and once again, though, follow cui bono, follow the money. That goes right back to Standard Oil and the Rockefellers when they antitrust. He wasn't the first billionaire until they broke up, which most people don't realize. They're not hurting these guys. They're helping diversify. these guys. Instead, he was not. Rockefeller was the richest man alive, but he wasn't a billionaire until he sold all of his pieces of Standard Oil. And what did he, literally, what did he sink most of the family fortune in was the medical system. And what they did was they literally went to all the different major schools and said, look, we will fund your next 10 years of your institution. All we ask is one member of the Rockefeller Foundation is on your board.
They're like, fuck yeah, sweet deal.
So they're like, fuck yeah, 10 million for one guy? Sure, boom. Well, what happens is they didn't do it to one, they did it to every single major institution in the United States from everything. And they literally went, within 15 years, it went from allopathy being like literally the witch, what people consider homeopathy now, quack science, which was allopathy, to completely reverse and then shut off the homeopathy side because they were still connected to Standard Oil, even though they said they sold it, they were not. And the byproduct of making oil is literally every drug on the planet. It's made from the byproduct of what? Oil, plastics. What? Yeah. Did you not know that?
No.
Yes. No. Allopathy. Literally, all these drugs you see are literally made and funded by the remnants of the oil process.
Dude, oil literally runs fucking world.
Fluoride is a leftover product. Is it steel? Is it steel rendering? Steve, do you know?
Fluoride is,
yeah. So they had all this poison that was stockpiled from the system. So what did they do? They had nothing to do with it. So I think it's a guy up in Chicago. I can't remember where it is, Pittsburgh, Chicago, whatever. Literally scams the government into thinking that fluoride does this, and this, gets a government contract, and bada boom, bada bing, fluoride is everywhere.
It's just fucking disgusting. They're so evil. Like nothing is like too evil for them.
And that doesn't even get into the mind control aspect of actually what fluoride does to you also.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's almost like, how did this all work out so perfectly for them? Are they that smart?
Well, I'm sorry to jump in, but you saw the introduction of fluoride into everything right after it got exposed that lead fucked up your brain and caused brain damage and made you more likely to fucking do crime and be dumb and fucking all that shit. Like it was almost immediate.
Correct.
They're like, oh, we lost that one. We need a new one.
Well, lost it or no, it just, I don't look at it as a lost it. They just literally shifted they moved the goalpost, so to speak. Kind of like most in the global warming thing. Most people have no clue that big oil runs global warming.
People don't believe me when I tell them that British Petroleum and Shell are the two largest manufacturers of solar panels.
Correct. He's telling the truth.
I didn't know that.
Yes, listen to Steve, people. He's telling the truth.
Wow. BP and Shell and solar panels. Okay. You guys are blowing my mind.
And there was a guy back in the day in Arizona who ran a website called Solar King, and you could get like super cheap, really quality solar panels from him. And I did not have the land or the resources at the time to do it, but he got shut the fuck down.
I remember when in like the fucking late 90s, early 2000s, when you could build your own solar panels that were super effective for really cheap by just buying a bunch of those little things, the little fucking tiny thing. It's like cells.
Yep, bit by bit, cell at a time. But yeah, they were fucking. Did we lose Leaf?
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
My phone said, 20%. We're cutting your camera off. And said, no, bitch, you're not.
No, bitch, you're not. We're almost done. All right, what can we do to both create meaningful change and to try to avoid being killed by the government? Like, what can we do that they won't try to kill us for?
You can sit on the sidelines. That's about, honestly, you're literally, we make jokes, but the more you do this stuff, the more you put yourself on the radar. I mean, I'm sorry. That's just the honest truth.
No, I
look, me sitting right here, me, you, and Steve are on FBI watch list right now.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Like, do you think this is the episode where I get like fucking tagged for murder or what?
No, but you're all three of us sitting here right now are on 15 different watch lists.
I guarantee you they're super happy that I quit teaching though.
I guarantee you that I have it's just another note or line in the existing file that,
right.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I'm just saying people think that we're on a podcast that 500, 1,000 people see, that we're nothing. But I'm telling you that we are something to somebody, because these movements, you never know when we're gonna trigger the next, whatever, whoever you want to insert here, that actually becomes big time.
Well,
Yeah.
and here's the thing, like I will advocate and participate in fucking shutting shit down. I advocate general strikes on my show all the fucking time.
Right.
Like, because so far it's the only thing that actually does move the ball any kind of our direction.
Which is why they fought so hard against them.
Enough people get together, and I read a stat that I ran it against the numbers that I can find, and it bears at least what I can see as reality. 3.5% of the population move against something. It's enough to fucking shift the ball in our direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to be defeatist, but I'm going to point out that the WTO, we had an anti-war march that I helped organize in Seattle in 2005 or something. That was 50,000 people were there, despite what the news organizations were saying.
I was there in '99.
And we have the Occupy movement too, which was very, very successful in many ways, and yet nothing really changed. And so I feel like we've come to a state now where like they control enough media and psychological programming that that those things maybe aren't as effective as they used to be. But I still won't say that we shouldn't do those things, because I think the benefit, and this is my answer to what we can do to create meaningful change without being slaughtered, hopefully, the benefit to that kind of shit is that you connect with real human beings in face-to-face, like real time. And I really do think there's something like literally magical and really effective about that. Like, I think it spurs people, gives people hope, it gives people connections to keep doing other things. And honestly, one of the things you can do also to create meaningful change and hopefully not get murdered is like working in your communities to help people out and to connect with people where you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. While I encourage the general strikes, the other thing that I say, and along with that, is do whatever you can to make your own community more sustainable, so that you don't have to rely as much on outside and on shipped in food or fucking which is really huge, because if you can grow your own food, you're one step closer to experiencing a level of personal freedom that few people get to in America in the fucking 21st century.
Which they fuck with constantly too. Your ability to do that.
Right. Like there's like laws that you can't in some places.
Well, no, people don't know the water collection. That states own the rights to the water that falls from the sky. They
not states, Nestle.
Well, okay, good point. Private companies. You're right.
Private fucking companies.
They buy the water rights. Yes, correct. Like they buy. Just like I don't remember who I was talking to, a normie the other day, but they actually understood that 100 years ago they went around buying up the mineral rights and the oil rights. And if you strike oil on your land, there's a 97% chance you don't own it, even though it's on your land. Big oil will come in and take your oil because they have the oil rights to it. It's a super small amount of land in America that the mineral rights, the water rights, isn't owned by a corporation.
That's like the delusion we're living under, because that's not real. You can't fucking just own like water. You can't. Like it's whatever. We could get into like land rights and stuff, but like water is a fucking human right.
The CEO of Nestle is on record as saying, no, water is a fucking commodity.
Yeah. Yep.
Evil motherfucker. How evil do you have to be to believe that truly?
Well, look at California. I mean, it's totally, with the water issues you guys are having out there, totally contrived. Absolutely.
100% contrived.
100% contrived.
Well,
Well, it depends on if you believe in the you know, the water and the earth theory is what what I'm getting at when I go there.
No, it's just, I mean, where I live and where people get their water, I mean, we're like in the middle of nowhere.
But I wasn't referring to you per se.
And we got a lake. And the lake provides the water for the community, 3-4 different communities. And there are people that have natural springs. And there are people that, have rainwater harvesting systems that at least run their main house, if not like their farm or whatever.
Right.
But water table is some serious fucking shit around here.
Yeah.
And I will say that Nestle and Jerry Brown like had a partnership that completely fucked California in terms of access to stored water during the drought. That's 100% true.
That's where I was getting at. Yes. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah. But we did experience some serious fucking water table damage over the last 12 years.
But also when it goes 200 and something days without rain, I don't believe for fucking 1 second that wasn't manipulated.
That's what I'm saying too. I think that's manipulated as well.
Yeah. So
and I don't want to argue that.
Droughts can happen naturally for sure, but this shit is beyond.
When they can de-smog China for the Olympics for 3 weeks, and they can fucking do anything they want in the United States now.
Yeah. And they've been making it rain for a long ass time.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, no, people go to fucking, I know people who go to I know a guy in particular whose family has business in Dubai, and he is fucking like white bread, big fucking gorilla motherfucker, but he goes to Dubai like 3 times a year with his family. It rains every afternoon in Dubai.
In the desert, yes.
What?
They make it rain every afternoon in Dubai, and it's like totally accepted by this guy who completely fucking mocks any kind of hint at geoengineering as fucking tinfoil hattery.
You're like, what? Right. You just fucking described it.
Look at have you ever seen a top level? It's green in Dubai, and then it literally stops in a complete circle or square, whichever it is. There's no grass outside of that area. Are you kidding me? That's natural.
Yep. Dude, for the 50th anniversary Grateful Dead show right over here in Santa Clara, they made a rainbow.
Yep.
And fucking they said in the paper the next day, we made a rainbow. And there are still people that are like, no, you can't do that.
You can't do that. We can't do that. We've been doing it for 100 years documented, and you can find documents there. It's not even conspiracy theory, but we can't do that.
No, and then there's that they put snow on a mountain for people to ski on it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like, people, do you realize what that is? That's weather modification. They're turning that water into snow so you can pay $50 to ski down it.
$80.
You can't think they can't do it on a grand scale. They can do it right there on the side of the mountain.
Yeah. Well, there's that. Was it Iran that said that the U.S. was like stealing their rainwater or something? And everybody laughed. Everybody's like, what a bunch of crazy kooks. And it's like, no, they're probably describing reality.
Oh my God, Iran. Like, what I love, I know we're jumping off topic here real quick, but what I love is that tanker attack happened and on Twitter, Gulf of Tonkin was trending.
Right, exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've been actually really happy to see that people seem to be like pretty aware that this is probably fake. I don't know that will change anything, but I'm glad that people enjoy it.
And it's funny that it's okay. Like they make jokes about it, like the NSA spying on them. They make jokes about it. Like, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, people, we're gonna invade, we're gonna blow up, we're gonna kill shit, but it's okay. Let's turn on ESPN. Shit, what's the score?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. They're like noticing it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yeah, they don't care. Just like the Prism, the spying, the Julian Assange, all that stuff. They literally, oh, yay, okay, gets over, move along.
Yeah.
People are legitimately happy that dude's locked up.
That's crazy.
And they're like regular everyday people, not the fucking you know, stenographer fucking Mockingbird media, but
Right.
who finally were like, oh shit, we could get fucked out of this too. Like,
Yeah.
finally, like,
What?
it came around a little bit on that. But like regular people are like, oh,
I can't imagine why. What do they think he did?
they think he's a rapist.
That's fucking stupid. Like, you have to be literally fucking retarded to think that.
You're not wrong.
It's so fucked.
Caitlin Johnstone, whatever you guys may think about her, she wrote this great thing that was like, here are, 16 rebuttals to fucking common Julian Assange smears, and fucking here's why everyone who is coming at you with this is a fucking idiot.
Good. Yeah, it's dumb. Like, it's possible that he is not who he says he is. It's possible that he is part of some agenda too, and I get that, but it's also like, you can't fucking hate him because you think he's a rapist. Idiots.
Dude, every intelligence agency on the planet is tripping over their dicks, and the fucking stenographers to power are fucking all falling in line with punishing this guy for exposing the crimes of empire. So whoever he is, what he's exposed
is pretty
good. Legitimate.
And he seriously seemed tortured. He had that Saddam Hussein look to him.
Oh my god, it broke my fucking heart.
Seriously, it broke my heart.
Like, what little I have, but
yeah.
Like, I've got a lot of love for the people that have a lot of love for that guy, and,
right.
and I've had a number of them on my show and shit like that. So it definitely sucks to know what they're going through over it, because it really is a fucking, it's stripping away what veneer of the First Amendment we have left.
Yeah, no matter what you think about Assange, I agree with you there 100%. 100%.
It's kind of the same as these massacres we're looking at, because it's what it's really meant to do, is deter people more than anything else.
In broad fucking daylight. And whatever, I have a lot of weird, like, I want to say weird, I have a lot of weird feelings about Tulsi Gabbard. She's out there saying, like, whatever you may think about the guy, this is a fucking attack on free press. This is an attack on, the ability to conduct investigative journalism. And she's not wrong. I'm glad she gets to say it as a presidential candidate, because maybe 15 more people on Twitter that day will hear it.
Right.
I don't know if they're not going to let him bring it up in the debate.
No, it won't be on the question list they're handed.
I hope she fucking sneaks it in. I hope they cut her mic.
Because it'll prove something. All right, let's wrap it up with some final words of wisdom, wellness, or warning that you want to share with people. Long pregnant pause.
Oh, you know me. I'm gonna say, fuck them. I'm gonna keep telling what I think. I'm gonna keep telling people what I know. I'm keep telling people what they know is wrong, and wake up. And whatever happens, and to hell with it. I don't know any other way, right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm going to tell you what I think, and tell you what I think I know, right or wrong. And when I'm wrong, I say fuck, I was wrong.
Yeah.
And then when I'm right, nah, I told you so.
It's good.
That's awesome. Well, fuck, man. Since we live in a fucking cartoon, don't be afraid to talk to people at the grocery store about this shit. Like, that's really that. You can spend as much time online or in a group or fucking with like-minded people as you need to for self-care, but you go out and talk to people about this shit. Go out and fucking meet people in your community, fucking expand your network of people that locally, help sustain your community, and fucking don't be afraid to talk about this shit.
That's super awesome. I love that advice, because it's true. The more I talk to people, which is not very often, but when I do talk to people, it's like a lot of people do actually question more things than you might think. So it is nice to go out and find out that it's not just in our little conspiracy groups that we are kind of woke. And I would back up what both of you guys say, and I also, as we've pointed out, like being more interdependent on your, not codependent, but interdependent with your maybe neighbors. Go out and meet your neighbors and maybe grow some food. I feel like it keeps coming back to that on our episodes lately, but I think those things really are ways to kind of fuck the system without getting shot in the face doing it. So maybe that's a good way to go. Fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your electric, concentric, analog dose of wisdom, according to Lee. Lee, thank you for being here tonight.
You're welcome.
And Steve, thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, buddy.
The best armaments in the world, the most human capital in the world, the largest coffers in the world, the largest network of allies and assets in the world, and the most advanced psychological lockdown on information and your mind's ability or inability to process it in the world. And these fuckers still cannot win. The fact that we are all here to call attention to their evils is proof of that. If they could have stopped us all already, they clearly would have. We are as strong as our connection to one another and our consciousness allows. So keep your mind, body, and soul strong and stay in touch with your fellow humans, friends. We ain't going nowhere. And until next time, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.